It's a slight sleight of hand, the figures, if I can just explain this. I mean, the fact of the matter is that they have compared car to car, not car to a two-wheeler. Okay? The two-wheelers in India are the most efficient, fuel efficient. You know that a person gets 60 kilometers per liter in a two-wheeler today. A car only at maximum will give you 22. So I think that's really not the debate in India.
In other words, this research misses the point.
I think this research really misses the point, and it's still looking at comparing apples to apples. And I really want us to begin to compare apples to oranges, and perhaps we'll make something quite different out of it.
Perhaps the most interesting comparison of apples to oranges is the fear people have of the diesel nano. They say that given the diesel emissions are far more toxic than petrol ones, do you believe there's a case for banning the diesel nano?
I think there's a case of banning all diesel cars. Be very clear about this, Karan, and this makes me really mad.
But the diesel nano in particular, because of its price?
Well, diesel nano and diesel cars, because be very clear, even a Mercedes-Benz owner who buys a Mercedes-Benz which costs 22 lakhs and above, but decides to run it on a fuel that is kept cheap because of the poor, this is criminal in this country. This is a loophole. This is exactly my point. Government in India has become a mere puppet in the hands of industry.
What about points made by people like Murad Ali Beg, the car expert, who say that your concern about diesel engines is misplaced because you're not taking on board the enormous strides and advances the modern diesel engine has made? He points out that today, 49% of all passenger cars in Europe as a whole and 69% in France specifically are diesel.
Yes, absolutely. But Mr. Beg is essentially playing with words, because when he calls advanced technology, it requires fuel of 50 ppm and below of sulfur. We have 350 ppm of sulfur in our fuel. So let's be very clear. We are far away from what he calls clean fuel and clean technology. What you get is toxic emissions. Please understand this. Diesel emissions are carcinogenic. This is not just simply about some dirty air. This is about your and my health.
And you're saying that, in fact, the modern diesel engine would be undermined in India because of the dirty diesel available?
You cannot use a modern diesel engine because you have dirty diesel in India, and Mr. Beg knows that.
What about the impact of the explosion in cars on our roads on traffic congestion? Surveys have been done which show that between 1997 and 2002, the average speed of a vehicle on the roads in Delhi has fallen from 27 kilometers per hour to 15, and I gather now in the next 5 years, it's fallen down to 10.
Absolutely.
So in the next 5 years, if you see 1 million and more nanos on the road, not to mention the increase in all the other cars, could we have virtual gridlock?
Karan, just look at Delhi. Delhi, often I'm accused of using Delhi as an instance, but just because Delhi is the richest city of India, we want all cities to become as rich as India. Delhi actually buys more cars than it buys two-wheelers now in terms of the growth of cars today. But if you look at this city, 20%, and please believe me on this figure, 20% of this city is under roads.
Which is enormous, actually.
Which is enormous. I mean, just imagine any city where 20% of your land area, 10% of this city is under trees.
And yet, traffic still doesn't move.
And we have increased our road length by 20%. But the amount of cars on the road have gone up by 138%. And that's, I think, the big challenge for India. I'll give you another instance.
Can I just, before you go to challenge, can I point out something? Your magazine, Down to Earth, says that, in fact, increasing roads is not an answer to the increase of cars, because as the road capacity expands, traffic expands almost equivalently. Is that really proven?
It's absolutely. I mean, many people have been to London, and if you think about the orbital in London, you know what it's called in London. It's called the country's biggest parking lot, because no car moves there. And that's a 4-lane orbital ring road that they made around London.
And that's happening to normal roads in Delhi.
And that's happening to normal roads in Delhi. I'll give you another instance of our inability to understand the scale that we need to deal with. When we built the highway between Delhi and Gurgaon, which is a 4-lane new modern highway, this is coming with a capacity of 160,000 vehicles in 2016. Do you know the number of cars on the road today on that highway? 130,000.
In other words, well before 2016, we'd have exceeded the built-in capacity.
We've already exceeding it almost. So why do you expect that you will ever be able to keep up with the demand for infrastructure? This is also about the mind frame. Oh, we'll build more roads, we'll build more highways, we'll build flyovers. Now we'll build flyovers over flyovers. Not realizing that they'll all get filled up. You will actually have less ability to move. as cars come in.
Let's take a break at that point, Sunita Narain. You've sketched out for us what the nightmare scenario could be if corrective measures aren't taken. Now let's look at what are the measures that are necessary to prevent the nightmare happening. That's in a moment. See you after the break.